the quietest of them all, has arguably the most important story to tell. It began here in 1935 when three young girls discovered a stack of letters while playing in the basement of this home. Those letters, now held at USC's Caroliniana Library, tell the story of a slave named April.
There's been a really good job of whitewashing a very awkward discussion.
It's a hugely awkward discussion.
In 1802, a white plantation owner named William Ellison lent one of his young slaves, April, to work for a gin maker in Winnsboro. April quickly became the go-to man for repairing the expensive cotton gins throughout the Sumter area.
They send him out to the plantations and they'd take them apart. He would sharpen them on location. And that's why he heard about Statesburg. He came through here as a young man, and he said, well, when he bought his freedom or whatever, he came here.
The center of plantation country, the wealthiest area of South Carolina. He changed his name. April was now known as William Ellison, the name of his former white owner. His gin business prospered. He bought this home, hundreds of acres of land, and eventually 68 slaves to work that land. Granger McCoy now lives in the Ellison home and says he often finds old cotton gin blades.
What do the Ellisons say when they come?
They looking for the home place.
All descendants of what many of us thought an impossible oxymoron, a black slave owner.
I had a black ophthalmologist come through here, Ellison, and we sat on this couch right here. And his great-great-granddaddy owned 68 slaves, and here I am white over here, and my great-great-granddaddy didn't own any slaves. And it was like somebody blew a dog whistle in a kennel if I was just kind of turning the head, not knowing how to handle all this.
History tumbles you.
And what little we can learn about Ellison as a slave owner isn't pretty. The book Black Masters chronicles Ellison's life in the antebellum South and suggests that his slaves were the worst fed and clothed of any in Statesburg. It also suggests that Ellison was a slave breeder, selling off infant girls, a practice even some white owners found cruel. Whatever the case, Ellison certainly had a good relationship with other white aristocracy. This contract shows that Ellison didn't just buy a home in wealthy Statesburg, he bought it directly from former Governor Stephen Miller, a governor and former slave trading property. He was the wealthiest black man in South Carolina, the fourth wealthiest in the South, wealthier than more than 90% of whites. Just a few hundred yards from the Ellison home is the Ellison graveyard, private, neither mixed with other white nor black tombstones, symbolic of his unusual position in the pre-war South, a position so few of us even knew existed.
Whatever happened during Reconstruction, and then up through the Jim Crow era, anything and everything that had to deal with the relationships between the blacks and the whites just went underground.
And may have remained so, if not for a stack of letters found under his house.
Till how did we get here as African Americans, and then what is African American, because African Americans go from Chile all the way to Canada.
Also, that we were also considered Spanish because the Moors were the ones who went into Europe during the Dark Ages and taught these different tribes.
Ellen Kane saw her act in 1928 and appropriated Jones's vocal stylings for a recording of I Wanna Be Loved by You. Jones's style, as imitated by Kane, went on to become the inspiration for the voice of cartoon character Betty Boop.
Of all oppressed peoples, including especially the working masses, specifically the laboring people of all the world.
Fritz Pollard was the very first black head coach in the National Football League, as well as one of the league's first black players.
All black people do not come from the same. Roll in a drowsy, syncopated tune, rocking back and forth to a mellow croon. I heard a Negro play.
The Cage Verses, and that book really speaks to me because it speaks about a young African-American girl that was raised at her innocence and away from her at a young age.
The importance of Dr. King's legacy to me is a story of faith, humility, strength, you know what I mean, to go through that struggle and still be able to wake up and do it.
I think it was a good thing, you know, because during that time, you know, there was a lot going on and people dealing with slavery. All people in general should have equal rights.
Promoted her products by traveling around the country, giving lecture demonstrations, and eventually established Madam C.J. Walker Laboratories in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Lincoln Motion Picture Company was a black-owned film production company founded by the Johnson brothers in 1915 in Omaha, Nebraska. It was incorporated in 1916 in Los Angeles, California. Harriet Tubman was born in Dorchester County, Maryland in 1820 and successfully escaped a life of slavery in 1849. She led hundreds of slaves north to freedom, becoming the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad.
Lincoln said to a nation far more divided than ours, "We are not enemies, but friends. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection."
Get the fuck over to the sidewalk.
Man, you ain't gotta talk to us like that, man. We live right down the street.
Didn't I tell you to get the hell off the street?
It's our job to teach our youth more about Black history so we can, you know, start to love one another. If we love one another, eventually people will do the same too.